All right. So at this stage, it's really important for us to understand a few fundamental concepts when it comes to building a scalable business. And more specifically, what makes a service scalable? So let me tell you why it's important. All right, let's take a step back and look at the big picture here. So the big picture goal for many of us here is to build a scalable business model where you help small businesses by implementing various AI systems and automations. So more specifically, and this was the goal that I had, and it might be your goal as well, but the goal is to build up some passive income, free up some spare time, spend time with your loved ones, and have some spare disposable income, whatever it may be, right? And the overall goal is to build that monthly recurring revenue, build up your additional income, and be able to help your clients all while doing so. So in order for us to achieve that goal, we first need to understand the services that we'll be offering. And more specifically, making sure that those specific services are actually scalable, meaning that we can actually grow them without them having to take up so much of our time. And then us having to get caught up in that hamster wheel where we work with one client and then all of a sudden you're just stuck in fulfillment and you can't bring on more clients. And then suddenly you're just stuck and your business can't grow. So we want to avoid all of that. So the point of this video is really to understand the three core concepts of what constitutes scalability when it comes to the specific services that you're going to be providing. So with that being said, the first core concept that you need to understand is that your service needs to have a strong demand, offer, and recurring revenue. So that needs to be something that people already know about and that there's already a demand for, meaning there's already a need for that service. People should actually be able to wrap their head around what that service is, and it doesn't require much education for you to sell that service. So the more you have to educate your prospects and your customers on what it is that you're actually offering, the more costly it's going to be able for you to do that and harder it is for you to actually sell it. So we want to make sure that there's already a really strong demand in place and a really strong need for the services that you're offering. And in doing so, that leads me to the next point, which is short sales cycle. So we don't want to be in a position where we're reaching out to clients and then this is the first time that they're hearing about us or our business. And then it takes a year or 2 years for them to actually become a customer. We want to make that sales cycle as short as possible. So in an ideal world, from the point where someone hears about you and then knows about you and what you offer to potentially closing them as a client and then having them become a paid customer, it should just be within a few days. So that's the ideal goal here. And the next thing is recurring revenue. So you guys are going to hear me talk more about recurring revenue in this program because it is so freaking important. Recurring revenue is going to be the oxygen, the lifeblood of your business. Being able to have a business model and offer service where you could provide as an ongoing service, where your clients and customers are paying you on a monthly basis every single month in a recurring way is going to be the foundation of scalability in your business. So I'm going to go into more details definitely later, but just understand the importance of recurring revenue when it comes to scalability. So the next factor here is having a high margins service. So this is meaning that your cost of fulfillment and actually delivering the service isn't going to be too high, where you're offering services at a certain price where your cost and expense for delivering those services are low enough to the point where you have a healthy profit margin. And typically speaking, we're going to be shooting for a target gross margin of 65% plus. Just know that this is where we're going to depend on AI and automation systems to be able to cut the cost down. And it's super, super important for us to have this wiggle room in space for us to take profit and potentially reinvest it into the growth of our own business. So that's potentially reinvesting into sales, marketing, maybe acquiring more customers, ultimately growing your business quicker, faster, and outpacing your competition. So the ultimate goal is to continuing to have those super high profit margin where, again, that's going to be the lifeblood, the oxygen of your business. And for all of us here, it's going to be the income that we'll be able to generate from the profit margins of the services that you're offering. And then finally, we want to offer a service that is high leverage. So what does it mean? It means that we want to be able to leverage AI and automation wherever possible. So again, this is where we want to be breaking from that time to value chain where we're not selling our time for money. We can do this by leveraging AI systems, automation systems, where we'll be focusing on providing access and assets instead of labor for our clients. So what I mean by that is in a traditional done-for-you agency model, where you're basically trading time for money and you're basically doing a lot of custom work. Where in this case, we're going to be focusing on services where we can pre-build a lot of the assets and systems that we're essentially selling access to. And in doing so, we can leverage software, we can leverage automation, AI, and other systems and assets that we've built and be able to do a lot of the legwork upfront. And then for each additional client or customer that we bring on, we're basically just adding on to the profit margin and then the overall growth and scalability of that business. So keep these three factors in mind. And as we go through it, think about the different services that we're going to be offering and just know that we want to match all three of these criteria. This is super, super important. All right. See you in the next one.